The term Bloody Sunday actually refers to multiple events. All of these events have several things in common, including violence usually directed at protesters. All of these events were either the result of a death or resulted in death, hence the name. Today, we will be examining 4 instances of Bloody Sunday. The earliest documented Bloody Sunday occurred on the 13th of November in 1887 in London. What started as protests against the unemployment and coercion in Ireland and the push for the release of William O'Brien, an Irish agitator and journalist, quickly became a bloodbath. A violent encounter with the Metropolitan Police and the British Army left 400 people arrested and 75 with severe injuries. The event had an incredible turnout, with a reported 30,000 spectators, 10,000 protesters, and 14,000 police officers. The event was organized by several leaders of the Social Democratic Federation. The Bloody Sunday of 1941 was the slaughter of 10,000 to 12,000 Jewish people in the Ringplatz Market Square by both German and Ukrainian police forces. This action, unprecedented in terms of scale in Holocaust history until that date in occupied Poland, was known as the Blutzentage, or the Bloody Sunday. The Bloody Sunday massacre of the 12th of October 1941 was the single largest massacre of Polish Jews perpetrated by the uniformed police and the general government before genocidal Achton Reinhardt of 1942. The ghetto was a Nazi ghetto established in 1941 by the SS in Stanislavov in western Ukraine. Rationing was enforced with insufficient food and workshops set up to support the German war effort. Throughout winter and well into the next year, more killings took place in the same fashion as before, until April, September, and November 1942, when regular transports of Jews were sent in Holocaust trains to the Belzec extermination camp north of the city. About 11,000 Jewish captives continued to live in Stanislav ghetto when the next few at Tianin took place. In January 1943, around 1,000 Jews without work permits were shot, and 1,500 to 2,000 were deported to the Janoska concentration camp for extermination. The third Bloody Sunday occurred in Selma, Alabama to Montgomery, Alabama, from March 7th through 25th, 1965. This Bloody Sunday was part of the Civil Rights March to End Segregation and consisted of 3 separate marches. These 3 marches were organized by nonviolent activists. The events became known as Bloody Sunday after police officers attacked the unarmed protesters with batons and tear gas during the first march at Edmund Pettus Bridge. The second march took place on the 9th. The civil rights activists, including Martin Luther King Jr., marched towards the county line of the bridge before turning back towards the church to avoid arrest. The third march in the protest was on the 21st. After Governor Wallace refused to give protesters protection, President Johnson jumped in to do so. 1,900 members of the National Guard under federal command, many FBI agents, and marshals protected marchers as they made their way to the capital city. By the time they got to Montgomery on the 24th, as many as 25,000 people had joined the march. Finally, the Bloody Sunday of 1972. This one is also referred to as the Bogside Massacre. It occurred on January 30th, 1972, in a town called Derry of Londonderry. The confrontation was between British soldiers of the 1st Battalion Parachute Regiment in August 1971, and against a backdrop of escalating violence and increased bombings in Northern Ireland, a new law was introduced giving the authorities the power to imprison people without trial, internment. A source said British authorities had ordered the march banned and sent troops to confront the demonstrators when it went ahead. The soldiers fired indiscriminately into the crowd of protesters, killing 13 and wounding 17. There were 2 investigations targeting the Bloody Sunday of 1972. The first investigation was almost directly following the ordeal. It was called the Widgery Tribunal, or the Widgery Inquiry, and largely cleared the soldiers and British authorities of blame. Years later, the incident was reinvestigated, called the Savile Inquiry. To wrap this up, we've gone over a few Bloody Sundays in history from 1887 to 1972. We discussed the 1887 protest against unemployment and coercion in Ireland, the 1941 bloodshed against the Jews in the western Ukraine, the Selma to Montgomery marches, and finally, the 1972 Bogside Massacre in Derry, Northern Ireland. Whether it be the first Bloody Sunday with many deaths or a small one with only minor injuries, these events show how people were willing to die in order to fight for change.